So this is the shawl that we're going to be making that you see on the cover. Just showing you how you can see the different colors if you look at the ends. The color on the picture there is, I'm not sure what color that is, but we're not using that one. But this one right here is called Moonstone. If you like this one, that's what I showed at the beginning of the video. I'm going to be using a different one for my demonstration. I'm going to be using Cleansing Quartz. Now, one way to get this pattern is to go to lionbrand.com and search pattern number L60157. And I will also add a link in the description for this particular pattern. There's several patterns of shawls that you can make with shawl in a ball. For your materials, you will need 1 ball of yarn, shawl in a ball, a crochet hook size H or 8, 5.0 millimeter, and you might want to use a stitch marker with your scissors and a blunt end wide-eyed needle for your yarn to fit through. Alright, you want to start out with your slip knot, and I'm just leaving a few inches for my tail, and just wrap it around your finger 2 times. Take that yarn in the back, bring it over, take the new yarn in the back, bring it over your finger, and there's your slip knot. I'm only going to chain 23, even though the pattern calls for 83. I'm only doing 23 just to show you how this pattern is done. So just go ahead and do your chain of 83, and I will meet you back. All right, now what you want to do is do a double crochet in the 5th stitch. So count 5 chains, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and do a double crochet in that 5th chain. Wrap your yarn around the hook, go into that chain, grab up your yarn, pull it through. You have 3 loops on your hook, and then grab your yarn and go through 2 loops, grab your yarn and go through 2 loops. And that first part acts as a double crochet in a chain 1. So this is the first part. Now we're going to chain 3. Now we are going to skip 5 stitches and go into our 6th chain. So count until you get to the 6th spot, and we're going to do a double crochet into that chain right there. Make sure you have 3 loops on the hook, and you grab your yarn, you go through 2, and grab your yarn and go through 2. Now we're going to chain 2. There's 1 and 2, and you're going to go right back into that same chain, that same stitch you went into, and do another double crochet. Okay, 1 more double crochet, and then you'll see the pattern starting to take shape here. Okay, so far so good. Okay, now we want to do that pattern again. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to do a double crochet, a chain 2, and another double crochet. So there's our chain 3. You want to skip 5 stitches, and you'll want to go into the 6th chain or stitch and do your double crochet. And once you get your double crochet, then you want to chain 2. So let me finish this double crochet here and chain 2 and do another double crochet right into that same stitch that you just went in. And you're going to do this all the way down to the end until you have 6 chains left. And you can stop when you get there, and I'll continue on and show you how to do it. So see how the pattern is taking shape? So just continue on until you have 6 chains left at the end of your 83 chains. And then I'll show you how to do the ending part. It's just slightly different, not much. All right, so carry on, and I'll meet you at the end. Now that you've gotten down to the last 6 stitches of your 83 chains, go ahead and continue on with your chain 3. That's 1, 2, and 3, and count down to your 6th chain. You're going to skip 5 and go into the 6th one. That first one was my slip knot, so don't get confused with that. There's my 6th one. And just go ahead and go in there and do your double crochet. And once you do your double crochet, instead of doing chain 2, you're just going to do a chain 1. And then you're going to do another double crochet back into that same stitch. Okay, so one more double crochet, and then you'll be finished with that row. So what you're going to have is a little grouping. See these little groups? The 2 in the middle that I've done have a chain 2 in between. Okay, and that little grouping, that's a chain 2. And the ones on the end are just a chain 1. So when you have your 83 chains that you've done this, you've done the groupings in the middle, you should end up with 12 of those groupings in the middle. You don't count the ones on the end. And those chain 3 going in between each one of those groupings, you should have 13 of those. So count those and make sure that that's what you have. And then we'll continue on, and we're going to do, I think, one more row possibly. Okay, now that you have finished that row, we're going to chain 4 and turn our work. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then just turn your work. And that chain 4 acts as a double crochet with a chain 1. And then you're going to go ahead and go into that gap, or that space where the chain 1 is, and we're going to do a double crochet. So this is where it gets easier, so you don't have to go into the stitch. You just go into the gap and do your double crochet. And pretty much this is going to be the rest of your pattern, is going into the gaps, which makes it so much easier. Okay, now we are going to do our chain 3 and go into the next gap. So we're going to skip right over that previous chain 3. So we do chain 3 and then go into the space, or the gap, whatever you want to call it, from that previous row, and do your double crochet and a chain 2 and a double crochet. So here's the double crochet, and like I said before, on the ends you're only doing a chain 1. But in the middle of the work, you're going to be doing a chain 2 whenever you do this particular grouping right here. So go ahead and do a chain 2, and then go right back into that gap and do a double crochet. And you want to continue that pattern until you get to the end. And at the end is when you'll do the last one with one chain stitch in the middle. So there you have the end with one chain stitch, and here with two. All right, so we are down at the end again. We're going to do a chain 3. There's 1, 2, and 3. And then we skip over to that little grouping at the end. We'll do our double crochet. And since we're at the end, we're only going to do a chain 1 in the middle. There's the double crochet and a chain 1. And then your double crochet, and you'll be finished with that row. So I think you probably get the gist by now. You're just going to repeat this every row until you get to the end. And there you've got it. You've got your one at the end with a chain 1 at each end. You've got your chain 3 in between each grouping. All right, we are on row 3. We're going to chain 4 and turn the work to start row 3. And remember that chain 4 acts as a double crochet and chain 1. That's what it represents. Go ahead and do your double crochet into that gap. And you're going to continue on in this row just like we did the previous row. So here's the double crochet. So just continue on, and I'm going to speed up the video. Once you've come to the end, we're going to finish off by doing a chain 1. And then we're just going to cut the yarn and pull it through, which will keep it nice and tight. Just go ahead and cut it, and then just pull the rest of the yarn through and tighten it up. And you are finished with the scarf except for weaving in the ends, and I will show you how to do that in case you've never done it. Before I show you how to weave in your ends, I wanted to show you this little gadget if you've never seen one before. This is supposed to help you thread your needle when your yarn or your thread is frayed at the end especially, or you just having a hard time seeing it. You take that little wire end and you put it through the eye of the needle, and then you take your yarn or your thread, just put it through that opening, pull it through, and then take the gadget and pull it through the eye of the needle. And that helps you thread it. And there you have it. Voila. Okay, I'll show you how to weave in the ends. Okay, so to weave in the ends, it's pretty simple with this yarn. It just blends right in, and I just like to kind of weave it through a couple of different directions. I just go down that way and then come across the other way. Just make sure you don't put your needle right back in where you came out. And you just weave it through. I'm going to do that one more time. Let me turn it here. All right, I'm just going to weave it back through one more time. And I'm not going to tie a knot at the end. It shouldn't be necessary. Just come all the way back through, and then we're just going to cut it off.